An alchemist in a mountain monastery mixes three colored powders in a stone bowl. He is not looking for a weapon. He is searching for something far older than war, something humanity has hunted since it first looked up at the stars and feared death. He is searching for immortality. Sulfur, charcoal, and the white residue scraped from the walls of a cave from centuries of dried bat droppings. He mixes them, hoping to find the elixir that stops time. What he finds is the opposite, a reaction that heals no one, but that within seconds will bend the direction of human history forever. Most people assume firearms were invented by someone who wanted to kill. That's not what happened. The gun was born from a mistake made by a man searching for eternal life, and from there begins one of the darkest ironies in human history. The most efficient killing tool ever created was born from the search for a life that never ends. Somewhere in China around the 9th century, someone ignites that mixture for the first time. Picture that moment. There was no word yet in any human language for the sound that had just happened. Fire that burned too fast, smoke too thick, and a concussion that shook the chest, not just the ears. For millions of years of evolution, humans had learned to read the sounds of nature: thunder, landslides, the groan of a volcano. The human brain recognized all of it as natural danger, something that came from the world, not from human hands. But this sound was different. This sound was made. For the first time, humans heard a force of nature that could be held, repeated, and aimed. And something subtle but terrifying began to form in the mind of everyone who heard it. The realization that a power once belonging only to storms and volcanoes could now belong to an ordinary man standing on the ground. At first, the powder was used to drive away evil spirits, for celebration, for wonder. No one suspected that the same sound would soon become the new language of war. Most people imagine the invention of firearms as a single moment, one brilliant inventor, one great leap. That is not how history works. The gun was not invented. It evolved, slowly, brutally, almost by accident, the way a species adapts under the crushing pressure of an environment that never stops fighting. Endless war. At first, the powder was packed into bamboo tubes lashed to spears. The weapon spat fire, not projectiles, a psychological terror more than a precise killing tool. Then someone realized something that would change everything. If the energy of that explosion were directed through a tube sealed at one end, the force would no longer burst outward in every direction. It would push. And whatever was placed in front of that push, stone, metal, scraps of iron, would fly forward with a force far beyond what any human arm could deliver. For the first time in human history, killing power no longer depended on how strong a man's arm was. It depended on how deeply a man understood chemistry and pressure. That was the moment combat stopped being a matter of muscle and became a matter of knowledge. The world was not ready to understand what that meant. Along the Silk Road, alongside spices and silk and ideas, knowledge of the powder traveled west. Most people imagined the spread of technology as fast and deliberate. It wasn't. It spread like a disease, slowly, through contact, through war, through exchanges that the losing side rarely chose. Every civilization that touched it turned it into something new. In the Islamic world, the powder was refined into the first weapon a single man could carry in his own hands. In Europe, it collided with something monstrous, a continent that had spent centuries perfecting the art of killing through armor, castles, and heavy cavalry. And here emerges one of the most unsettling truths in the history of human technology. Every time humans invent a new way to protect themselves, somewhere, is already searching for a way through it. The armor that had protected knights for centuries, that could turn aside swords and arrows, suddenly became irrelevant. A small piece of metal could pierce what thousands of years of close combat weaponry evolution could not. And with that, something larger than mere military tactics collapsed. The knightly class, a symbol of honor, bloodline, and physical power for centuries, began to lose its very reason for existing. A peasant with a few weeks of training could now bring down a nobleman trained since childhood to fight. The gun did not simply change how humans made war. It changed who was allowed to hold power. For thousands of years, killing required closeness. It required eye contact, physical proximity, the courage to come near another human body and watch their face as death arrived. The gun destroyed that requirement. For the first time, a person could end another life from a distance that reduced an enemy's face to nothing more than a blurred shape. Modern psychologists still debate what happens in the human mind when the psychological distance of killing is stretched this far. Some research points to something disturbing. The greater the physical distance between killer and victim, the easier it becomes for the human brain to release moral restraints that evolved over millions of years to stop people from killing each other. The gun didn't just transform the battlefield. It rewired the moral architecture inside the minds that wielded it. And once this technology stopped being made one piece at a time by craftsmen and began being produced in bulk by states, something larger than the weapon itself started to take shape. Military power stopped being a matter of how many brave men you had. It became a matter of how much capacity a nation had to manufacture, distribute, and sustain instruments of death on an industrial scale. War transformed from a contest between men into a competition of production capacity. The alchemist in that monastery, searching for the elixir of eternal life, could never have imagined what would come centuries later. He could never have imagined that his discovery would reshape the map of the world, that empires would rise and fall based on who mastered this technology first. He could never have imagined that a conquest of entire continents would be decided not by courage, not by sheer numbers, but by who possessed the metal tube capable of turning black powder into a force that drove metal through flesh and bone. He could never have imagined that one day a descendant of that same idea would grow into something capable of erasing an entire city in seconds. This is a pattern that repeats throughout human history, and it is one of the most unsettling truths about invention itself. Humans rarely create technology while completely understanding what they are about to release into the world. Every great invention begins as the answer to one small question, and ends by raising a far larger, far frightening question than its creator ever imagined. Today, hundreds of millions of firearms exist in the world. Each one carries a trace of a quiet mountain monastery, of an alchemist who only wanted to stop time. There is something haunting in that fact, that the tool most widely used by humans to end life was born from the most human desire of all, the desire never to die. Perhaps that is the deepest truth about our species. We were not built to invent destruction. We stumble into it on the way to something far more fragile, far more human, in our search for meaning, for control, for a way to endure our own mortality. Every time we build something to protect life, we walk a little closer to something that can end it. And perhaps that is the true curse of human intelligence. Not that we create instruments of death, but that we create them every time while reaching for life.